What's going on, guys? So continuing in my series of Star Wars reviews, we now get to a strange spot in Star Wars history. Originally, my next review was going to be for Revenge of the Sith, but I realized if I'm doing this chronologically, I should probably talk about the Clone Wars feature film. Then I realized there's really not that much to talk about there. So why not do a combo review? The Clone Wars feature film, the Clone Wars television show, and Clone Wars, the 2003 animation. Because that's the only way that my OCD, perfectionist, completionist mind will be satisfied. Now, unlike my reviews for episode 1 and 2, I'm not going to do any spoilers in this video because I know a lot of you haven't actually seen the feature film, so I want to keep it as vague as possible. Star Wars The Clone Wars came out in 2008. It was a theatrical feature, and a lot of people were very confused by this. Because for a long time, Lucas had been talking about an animated Star Wars television show. All the way back to doing press for Revenge of the Sith, he mentioned they were planning a CGI animated Star Wars show.
We are going to do a TV series. It's been out in little bits and pieces as the Clone Wars. It'll continue as the Clone Wars. It's going to be a 3D animated series about a half an hour long.
It wasn't until he saw footage from the first few episodes that he decided he would like it to be a movie. This made it hard on the creators because they didn't really have a budget for a feature film. This movie is actually 4 episodes that were planned for the show, meshed into one thing to make it a feature-length runtime. It's a really bad idea, but Lucas for some reason thought it would be a good one. As usual, his ideas just aren't the greatest anymore, Lucas. What are you doing, man? Nevertheless, this movie follows Anakin and Obi-Wan smack dab in the middle of the Clone Wars, and Anakin has suddenly taken on an apprentice called Ahsoka. So Anakin's trying to train this young girl, Obi-Wan is trying to keep Anakin on somewhat of a leash, and Ahsoka is learning a lot about the Force. And all this is circling around a very convoluted plot to get a little baby Huttlet back to its Hutt family. This movie's a bit of an oddity, because when you watch it, you can tell something about this wasn't made for theaters. This was made for television, and now they're trying to make it into something for theaters. So people who went and saw this movie largely viewed it as a gigantic promotional commercial for the upcoming TV show. And in some ways, it was, let's face it. The movie really is just a series of long, emotionless action scenes. That's really all this movie is. It goes from a few battles to a few more battles, and it's nothing but this very wooden, mechanical, mannequin-like acting. It's really terrible, actually. Because you can tell that Dave Filoni, the director, was just really getting his footing here, and the animators were more than likely struggling with these strange budgetary concerns and demands from George Lucas to make it into a feature when they were really just planning for a television show the whole time. The characters' faces, their mouths are moving in sync with dialogue, but their eyes and the position of their face doesn't reflect even half of the emotion that Pixar or DreamWorks is able to accomplish with their animated films. But you can really tell it's mainly because they weren't setting out to make a movie. I mean, imagine that. You're sitting down, you're planning for months and months, and even really a couple of years, the first few episodes of a television show. And then the big guy who signs all the checks comes in and says, yeah, I want to make it a movie. Let's make it a movie. And you're like, We don't have the money for that, man. We don't. Oh, I'm George Lucas. You can do whatever you want. And that's really the big issue here with this movie. It just wasn't made for theaters, but it was released in theaters. So let's push the movie aside and start talking about the, thank goodness, much better TV show, The Clone Wars, that followed. There are still some strange things about this show, and by far the biggest one is that the airing of it was not in chronological order. Why? Like, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Why would you purposely air a show out of order? Do you know how many kids watch the Cartoon Network? I mean, really, do you know how many kids are like, why is this person alive here and then dead in the next one and then back to life in the next one? It didn't make any sense. It was so confusing. Gratefully, StarWars.com released the official chronological order in which you could watch the show, so thank goodness for that, because that was a little strange. I was like, why are all these things? And then as soon as that happened, I went back, I watched it in chronological order. The first episode is actually like in season 2. It's so weird. Why would you do? I can't believe, I can't fathom why anyone would do that. It'd be like releasing Return of the Jedi first, then later doing A New Hope, and then maybe like in 2010, we'll just release Empire Strikes Back. Who cares? I don't get it. It's such a weird choice. But let's stop talking about that. How's the quality of the show compared to the movie? it's like leaps and bounds better. I mean, the animation has improved. The animation is more emotionally resonant. The ship-to-ship battles look great. The CG is actually really good for a television show and better than the theatrical film. The CGI in this show still isn't really film-worthy. You know, it's not really theater-worthy, but it's made for TV and at home on the small screen. It looks fantastic. And the show introduced quite a bit of really interesting expanded universe storylines that you can actually get really invested in. They brought back some characters, Darth Maul, that were really awesome to see because it was like, Darth Maul, why would you kill Darth Maul? He was by far the best part of Phantom Menace. Clone Wars was like, you know what? You're right, let's try to figure out a way to get that in there, and they did. And I do recommend watching it in chronological order because you can actually follow the storylines better. The Clone Wars TV show had much better animation, although it is still wooden at times. The emotion was better conveyed through the animation. The dogfights were great. The lightsaber battles did come off a bit robotic from time to time. There wasn't that physical weight or gravity there with the way the bodies were interacting. It's hard to describe. If you watch the Clone Wars show, I think you know what I mean. Sometimes it really does look a bit video game-esque. It just didn't really look like it had the physics there, you know? And that's one of the things about CG that's really important to understand, is how heavy or how light something is that you're animating and how to make that look as realistic as possible. And some of the lightsaber battles don't really work that well, in my opinion. But the entire show and the movie I just mentioned are both on Netflix. You can Google it right now, look up the chronological order, and watch it in that. It'll be much better, trust me. Now let's talk about something that is by far the most underrated Star Wars thing ever. No one talks about this anymore. It won multiple Emmys. It was directed by the man who brought you Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, and Samurai Jack, and it's done in the same style as Samurai Jack. Great cartoon if you've never seen it. That is simply Clone Wars. This is by far one of the best things that the prequel saga ever gave us. This is such a great cartoon. This came out before The Clone Wars, the CG show. This is all hand-drawn. There's some digital animation included, and it was a micro-series. These are 15-minute episodes that are all combined to sort of make a film. They were released on Cartoon Network and then on the internet simultaneously, and they were always released before Cartoon Network's Friday lineup of cartoons, so you could kind of get in the mood for it. It was like one of the first things you could see after you got home from school. It was so much fun. And if you love Samurai Jack like I do, what is so great about the Clone Wars micro-series is the animation style. Some people really hated it. I love it. But what's so good about this show is just through direction, storyboards, and images, and perfect timing in regards to editing, it was very suspenseful, and it really explored Anakin's turn towards the dark side actually really well, particularly in his lightsaber battle with Ventress, which is still my favorite thing involving any Star Wars animation ever. The music and the timing of the shots was just primal. They really captured Anakin's anger and rage when he was in this lightsaber battle, and it's better than anything in the CG show in my opinion. I love it. I think it's so underrated. I don't think enough people saw this show. You can watch the entire show in about 2 hours, so if you have never seen the micro-series Clone Wars, I strongly recommend it. It has excellent action, really good hand-drawn animation. The focus is never really on dialogue, although there is some good dialogue and humor throughout the show. It's always on visual storytelling, telling your story through these amazing images. And I would strongly recommend it if you've never seen it. It is by far my favorite Clone Wars anything. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the feature film, gets a C-. Star Wars: The Clone Wars CG show gets a B+. And Star Wars Clone Wars, the micro series, gets an A. So next month is going to be my Revenge of the Sith review, but I had to get the Clone Wars stuff out of the way because I realized if I didn't do it now, it was going to be like after Return of the Jedi, and that just wouldn't make any sense. You're talking about the originals, you're getting excited for 7, and all of a sudden I'm going to take you back to the Clone Wars. I had to do it now. But I also have something pretty cool to talk to you guys about really quick, also involving Star Wars. There's a new trading card game out right now called Star Wars Digital Card Trader. It's an app you can download. They contacted me and were nice enough to provide me with some details about this, and were wondering if I could perhaps just mention it to you guys since this is a Star Wars review. They have all the nostalgic cards from the 70s and 80s from the original trilogy, as well as upcoming cards from Star Wars Episode 7, including Poe Dameron and BB-8, the new droid, and we just talked about the Clone Wars. Clone Wars cards are available as well. And since it's all digital, you don't have to hoard up your shelves with tons of cards, because trust me, I know a thing or two about hoarding and running out of space. So guys, there are links in the description below if you want to learn more about this and download the app for your phone. Thank you to Topps for asking me to do this, and thank you to you guys for watching my continuing string of Star Wars reviews. Episode 3 is going to be next month. I'm really looking forward to talking about that one with you guys. I know that's a bit of a divisive one. A lot of people love it, some people hate it, some people are in the middle. It's not like it's very common. There's a very strange, polarizing opinion of that movie, and I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you did see the Star Wars Clone Wars feature film, or the CG show, or the micro-budget animated series, I'd love to know your thoughts below. Thanks again, guys, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.